It's my junk journal flip through part 3, and I have so many things to share with you, including a transparent confetti tag, a super easy and quick mini book that's perfect for journals or even a Happy Meal gift, my source for some beautiful free printables that I think you are going to love, and a couple of tricks using my Traveler's Notebook inserts. Here we go, y'all! Well, hello and welcome to Pink Paper Peppermints. My name is Melissa and I'm so glad you're here. Today we are looking at the third signature in my gigantic 2019 junk journal. And in case you missed the first two videos, I will link those for you below. Just a quick recap, this journal has 4 signatures. Each signature represents a quarter of my year, and so it has calendars in it for that year. And I'm just kind of using it as a planner and a journal and a scrapbook and everything all together. So I've only started working in that first signature, but when I finish the whole book, I will do another flip through for you with all the pieces and everything that I added. Today, we're just going to look at this third signature that doesn't really have any work in it yet, and it's starting off with this gorgeous vintage gift wrap. I just love those bright 60s colors. And when you flip the page, I've just created a little fold-out page with a pocket with some vintage ledger paper. On the other side is a children's book page, and I just created a pocket with that gift wrap kind of wrapped around the bottom. Inside the pocket, I have some journaling cards from my Chosen by Grace collection, which you see there, and also I think the other one is from my Well Watered Garden collection, and I've just got those tucked into the pocket. On the other side is a scrap piece of paper. I actually enjoy doing this with my scrap pieces of paper. I don't know why, I just think they're so pretty when you're done with them, and they have paint and splatters all over them. And my new thing lately is to put them in embossing folders and emboss them, which, as you saw there, it just gives it the best texture, even with the paint and everything. On this page, I've got a vintage handkerchief that I've made a pocket from, and some text from the actual book that this journal was created from, and a little star there. This quarter is going to have the 4th of July in it, so I wanted to add a little bit of that on that page. And it's on an embroidery pattern pulled from a vintage embroidery book, and then some more gorgeous vintage wrapping paper there. This is going to be the first calendar in this quarter, and I just have blank graph paper there. Each quarter I will go in and draw out the calendars for that quarter, and then I just add stickers and notes and things. This is some painted paper that I also embossed, and it's actually not painted. I used spray inks on it. I was just kind of playing with my spray inks, and then I ran it through with the embossing folders. And on this side is a little fun surprise that I got in my Studio Calico stamping subscription box one month. It was a notepad of these notes that say, "I get so happy when I think about making things," which, oh my goodness, is so true. And I loved that. I wrapped it around the page and just created a pocket on both pages with that. And I'll link the Studio Calico in my description if you want to take a look at that. Here we have a tag that I created out of one of my tags from my Painted Pages collection and some packaging, and I just cut the tag in half. Actually, I cut the top and bottom off the tag, and then I took the packaging and put some little confetti stars inside it and sewed it up, and then attached it to that top and bottom part of the tag to create that little transparent confetti tag. And you could do that with a transparency or even parchment paper or wax paper, anything like that that was a little bit transparent would work to make that tag. So on the other side is something else that you could use, which is a glassine bag. I get those in my Studio Calico orders, and I have just sewn it to the page to create kind of a pocket that I can put things in later, and I attached a little sticker and sewed across it at the bottom there. And then you can also use the back of it for a little tuck spot. On the opposite page, we have a die cut that I designed and cut out on my Silhouette machine, and I've just sewn it. It was actually one that kind of messed up, but I didn't want to throw it away, so I just sewed it to this background paper, and you might recognize that background paper because it was actually the paper that I used in the video that I did about the tissue paper texture technique, which I will also link that in the top right-hand corner and in the description below in case you missed that video, but there's a picture of it there on the screen of what the final process looked like. So you can see it. I used blue paint and that glitter. And so that's what that paper is from. And I just love that ethereal look that paper has in my book. And I also like the scraps of paint and the glitter that are left over from it. So on the next page, I have some paper. It's called fabric paper, and it's by Michael Miller. And unfortunately, it's one that I've sort of had in my stash for many years, so I don't think they make it anymore, but it's just like my favorite paper ever. I don't know what I'm going to do when I run out of it. That playing card I got from, it's a vintage playing card that I got from my friend Cindy's shop, Junque Art Studio, and she has a gorgeous shop on Etsy, which I will link below. She has vintage things and her original art, and she also teaches classes in journaling and different art, so definitely go and take a look at her shop there. Then we have another blank graph paper page for a calendar. And on the back of that, this is one of those patterns. I think I told you about this in the last video, but I love getting little baggies at estate sales that have patterns and little scraps of fabric and sewing notions in them, and I always put those patterns in my book. This is a gorgeous free printable. I got this from actually a homeschool website that I've loved to go to for years, and her name is Nadine. And it's called Practical Pages, and she has this beautiful printable of this warrior girl in the armor of God. And normally you see that drawn as a man, but I love that she drew it as a woman. And she also has a man one too, and she has lots of other printables. So I will link her below. You definitely want to go and check her out for her free printables, even if you don't homeschool. This is some vintage wrapping paper, and this actually is in one of my Traveler's Notebook inserts, so I will show that to you in a little bit and show you which one that is. Then I just have a little piece of ledger paper that I've sewn one of my vintage quilt pockets in. That is from my Rhythms of Grace collection, which you're probably familiar with if you've been around for a while, but in case you're new, that's what it looks like there. And it's made from some 30s quilt squares that I found at a flea market. And I have some Maggie Holmes paper with just a piece of book page sewn to the edge. On the back is part of an atlas page. Again, this being the 4th of July quarter, I wanted a map of the U.S. in my book, and in the center a doily that I sprayed with some spray ink. On the opposite page is a really cool find that I got at an estate sale. It was an aviator's map. It kind of looked like an old Mapsco, but with aviator maps in them, and I just loved the look of those. So I added some glitter chipboard, and this is actually a part of a card from that Chosen by Grace collection, and I used the sentiment that was on the card on this collage tag, and then I had that piece of card with clouds on it left over, and I thought it would be perfect for an aviator map, so I just sewed that on there. On this side, I have a little flap, and I've attached a card from my new Shine collection on that flap. You can see that collection there, and it's all about stars and the sky and dreams, and I thought it would go really well with an aviator map, and so that's on the flap there. On the opposite side is a page wrap from my Easter collection, and those are just like little inserts or tip-ins that you put in your junk journal or traveler's notebook. And I love this one because it looks like a giant Bible, a vintage Bible, and so I've tucked that in there, and I'll show you the other half of that in a minute, what I did with that. This is one of my favorite Maggie Holmes papers with some vintage lace attached to it. I just love the look of it. It just looks like vintage wallpaper. On the next page is just a fold-out ledger paper and some paper by Photo Play. It's a 12 by 12 paper, and if you just take a 12 by 12 paper and fold it up about 3 inches, you can create a set of pockets. And then I just used a circle punch to clip a notch in the top of that pocket, and I sewed a Maggie Holmes butterfly foam sticker to that. On the other side is that wood grain paper, and I had an idea for this girl from my Shine collection that I wanted to do on this spread, and I didn't want to forget it since it's not till the 3rd quarter, so I just clipped that to the page there so that I could remember, and I hope I remember my idea. I should probably write it on a sticky note and put that in there. And so that's the other side of the pocket with the little notch in it, and some ledger paper with I believe that's Me and My Big Ideas, a foam sticker that I've sewn on there. So this is the other side of the page wrap, and I just took some vellum and sewed it to create a pocket. That is some really old vellum from my stash, so I'm not sure I'm going to be able to tell you where it's from. And I just created a pocket there. There's the rest of my aviator map. And on this side, this is another set of page wraps, and they're smaller. They're created for a standard traveler's notebook, and so they were a little bit small in scale for me to use them as page wraps in this book since it's so gigantic. So I had the idea to do something a little different with them, and instead of wrapping them around the page like you see here, like I did with the Bible page wrap, I decided to just sew them down the middle and kind of create 2 little flaps with them. So this is the set that they come from. It's from the Painted Pages collection. You can kind of see how they work there. And so I sewed them down the middle, and now I've got these great little 2 pockets, matching pockets, and with little hidden flaps underneath, so you can put journaling or photographs. And I like to do that because I show my pages a lot on YouTube and Instagram, and I don't always want to share it, maybe my journaling or photos. This is a close-up of one of the tags. The tag is taken from another journal page where I painted it with inks and then typed on it, and then I just used that to create the tags for these pockets, and then attach some ribbon and fibers. I really can't have a tag without ribbon. I have to have a lot of ribbon on my tags, so you're always going to see those. So there's the other half of that inked doily there, and the atlas. I ran out of space on the edge, so I attached a piece of paper from a typing manual and another My Mind's Eye foam sticker that I've sewn to the corner there. The rest of that Maggie Holmes paper and some ledger paper with another sticker that I've sewn on. On the next page is a tag that I worked on with some spray inks and some, I think that's Prismacolor pencil, and it's backed with a page of vintage wrapping paper again. On the next page, I have another one of those gorgeous drawings from Nadine at Practical Pages, and opposite that is another pattern from one of my estate sale finds, and then some more blank graph paper for my calendar, that gorgeous Michael Miller paper, and some more of my background parchment paper with paint and glitter all over it. Here we have a tag that I was playing with some gold paint on, and then a scripture quote that I actually cut out of one of my journaling cards from my Prisoner of Hope collection. And a lot of times I do that. If the card doesn't necessarily go with what I'm working with, I'll just cut the sentiment out, or I'll cut the flower out or the butterfly out. So that's something fun that you can do with printables. You don't always have to use them exactly as they are. At the top is a hot air balloon sticker from, I believe that's Dear Lizzie, and some vintage feed sack material that I've just sewn to the edge of that vintage architecture book page. On the next page, I've used some hot pink washi tape to attach this page, and I've got an envelope on it with gold glitter stickers and some gold stars that says yes, and I'll show you what that's about on the inside of the envelope. There's a little cluster of things at the top there that are from, I believe that's from my Shine collection. And when you open this envelope flap, I've done something fun with one of my Traveler's Notebook inserts. I actually cut up the page, and a lot of times I do this, I use it as pattern paper. So that is that green vintage wrapping paper that I used in this Traveler's Notebook insert, and I've just taken it and cut it to fit inside my envelope and create an envelope liner. So you can do that with any of those vintage linen papers that I have in my Traveler's Notebook inserts. You think of them as pattern paper and think of the different ways that you can use them. With this is actually one of the pages as well, and what I did with this was I shrunk the page down before I printed it. I told it to print it at 60%, and so when you do that, 50 to 60%, depends on your printer, you'll have to test it out, but when you do that, then you get kind of a journaling card size version of that page, which is a lot of fun. And then I printed it on cardstock, and then I just ran it through my typewriter to type the cinnamon on. I did that twice, for the front and for the back of this little booklet, and I'm going to show you how I made this book. Super easy way to make a little mini book. And what I did was I took these vintage coin wrappers, or not wrappers, I'm sorry, coin envelopes, and I just cut the tops off, and then I glued them one to another and then also to the card. And it makes this really fun sort of accordion fold envelope book that then you can tuck things into, which I think would be great for Happy Mail. What I'm going to use it for, this scripture is actually about the promises of God are all yes and amen. So I'm actually going to write out some of the promises and tuck that into my little mini book. But you could use that for so many things. I think that would be a really fun Happy Mail gift. So on the next page, that ruler sticker is a Rebecca Sauer sticker from many years ago that I've been holding on to and decided to finally use it in this book. Next we have that inky embossed paper on this side, and then another blank page of graph paper for, I think, my final calendar for this quarter, and some vintage gift wrap again, and that gorgeous embroidery, vintage embroidery page. some more of the painted parchment paper, and another children's book page with a little pocket formed from that vintage wrapping paper. And that wraps up our book. At the end of that, it's happy birthday wrapping paper, and I put it at the end there because in that final quarter is my birthday and also a lot of fun holidays and Christmas. I'm really looking forward to working in that quarter, and that's also why I have that cute little girl there. She's a vintage gift wrap tag. So we'll talk about that in the next video. And after that, I'm going to have some videos on all the techniques that you've asked me about. So I'm really looking forward to that. That's going to be a lot of fun. If you enjoyed this video, would you give me a thumbs up or maybe share it with a crafty friend? And I hope you have a day filled with grace and peace. And I'll see you next time here on Pink Paper Peppermints.